Welcome to the Roman Gabriel Show, RomanGabrielShow.com, presented by Iconic Nation Media. Remember to join us on American Family Radio, AFR.net, YouTube, Roman Gabriel Show, and all the places to get your podcasts. So with me is an old friend, not an old friend, she's beautiful, an old friend from time back.
I'm good with both.
So, yeah, starting with so many years covering the NFL, most recently with Fox, but I can remember when she started her organization, her nonprofit called Galvanize. And at that time, it was a fledgling idea that she had to help women integrate into broadcasting and sports and entertainment. And I remember you had this wonderful passion for this and excited about doing it. And of course, you used your platform as a reporter yourself to build it. Now you're actually working with coaches as well. So with me is Laura Okmin, Galvanize. So good to see you. You and I were talking about this, 92 for you, 94 for me.
Yeah.
And how our lives have been changed by this industry.
Yeah, I love it. I think we're such kindred spirits, Roman, and kindred hearts. But I know for 20, 25 years, I had such a passion for my job, still do, but I just had no purpose. I just had a great passion. And so Galvanize helped give me a purpose, which was how can I help? And we were just saying, like, you can't look at one table, 360 and not see a woman. But when you and I came here, I used to count women because I could, and I would count on one hand, and we could never count now. So it's grown so much, but also has so much further to go. But that's why I've always loved our conversations, which I think we've always come from the helping heart, which is how can I help? Who needs my help? And I know it's given me such purpose and such joy. And I'm here calling the game for Westwood One on Sunday, but I have a table of rock star women over there, and I wanted to make sure that I gave them something I would have killed for in 92 or 2002, which was women helping me and being able to cover your first Super Bowl around people who you could ask questions and you could fail and you could learn. My first Super Bowl, I was in way over my head. I wasn't ready for it, and I did not have kind, helpful people around me, and it didn't crush my confidence on a Sunday. It crushed my confidence. Yeah, like it took me a long time to get over feeling so not ready, and I just want to make sure every year, it's my fourth year bringing Galvanize, and to be able to give them an incredible opportunity of their first Super Bowl and feeling like they're supported, they're mentored, they're coached. I would have killed for that. I know you would have too.
Well, and I was just going to say that, I don't think any of us regret the path that we took, because I remember being the same way, over my head. I mean, I had done a talk show, but I had never broke stories. And so they just threw me into the mix and said, okay, you need to go get stories, break stories for us. And when you break them, get on as fast as you can. One of the guys that I looked up to that I did get help from was two guys, Chris Berman and Chris Mortensen. Mort did it better than anyone.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so I just watched what they did. I mean, I was like following them around going, okay, so this is how you do. You talk to people, and once you know what you know and you confirm it, then just get on the phone. And so I really, it helped me a lot to go through the bumps and bruises and to learn and make mistakes. And of course, in our business back then, you didn't have the worldwide, if you and I screwed up, it was on a station. It wasn't worldwide.
Yeah.
So you could do that. But now,
it's hard.
Everybody sees everything everybody does. And of course, you and I both know that the players was the same way, right?
Yeah.
I grew up with my dad, 17 years in the NFL with the Rams. And the only thing that he had to deal with was beat reporters. And there was no internet. And he just made it real clear to people, here's the deal. I'll be cooperative in this locker room and about my career. But when I leave this locker room, I don't want you talking about my personal life. And if you do, then I won't talk to you anymore.
That was the relationship, yeah.
With these, every move you make is documented. You got to watch everything that you do. So the thing I was going to ask you is, what was, if we were to take you back to 92, your first Super Bowl, in terms of the position that reporters were in, what do you think the biggest difference that you remember then as opposed to now?
I remember no women, and I remember standing out in every room and not in a good way. I remember people talking about me. I remember people questioning me. I remember people quizzing me. And and it was such a hard time. It was such a hard time because on one hand, I was celebrating being at a Super Bowl and how monumental that was for my career, for my life. But then being very aware that nobody wanted to hear your question. Nobody, and I think I got one question in, if any, because I wasn't strong enough to let my voice be heard. And everybody kept, and now everybody's jumping in. Their questions are all over the place. You gotta fight for your
You said a
question to
key
be
thing,
heard.
because there's a technique to media Super Bowl, especially here with the numbers that you're up against.
Yeah.
And one of the things that this and that I learned early on, Mondays are so different now than they used to be.
Sure.
Like this opening night's all about fans now.
Yeah.
It's terrible for
Entertainment,
media,
yeah.
terrible for us. But back in the day, we had it made, right? Stadium, players in their uniforms, everybody available, no fans, great background, looked
Yeah.
super.
Yeah.
You could hear yourself. You could actually interview somebody without 1,000 people around you talking. So the question that I have for you, what you just talked about, is in these press conferences, like you were saying, you can't be timid because you almost have to, the question has to come out, you're guessing before they end. So, and you can't be too loud or too soft. You just have to be at that tone that's a little different than everybody so you catch their attention or their eye.
I just remember my first couple, I hated press conferences. I was terrified of that. I wasn't confident enough for it. And every time I would try, and I never got a question in. And maybe my third or fourth Super Bowl, I finally came in and said, this is the year. Like, I'm doing it. I'm going to make sure my voice is heard. And I remember rocking my confidence and coming in and doing it and being able to get my voice going and not let anyone else go. And I remember getting in 2 questions with Peyton Manning and Peyton saying, Laura, and let me do a follow-up. And I mean, I was crushing it. I was interrupting any other voice I heard. And it was such an effort, and it was such an intention. And I will never forget, I was walking from the press conference to lunch or something, and Junior Seau all of a sudden crossed, and he goes, hey, and I didn't know him. And he goes, you're the one that got in all the questions. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Because in my head, I'm like, sorry, like I'm doing an exercise. And he goes, no. And he goes, what did you do? And he goes, they were listening to you. They kept coming to you. And I kept watching you and being like, how does she do that? So for Junior Seau to be like, whatever she's doing, like how you followed Chris and Chris, right?
That's right.
So for him to be like, whatever you're doing, can you give me a tip? And how good I felt because how hard it was to get to that, the intention I put, and the confidence I gained from that. And for Junior Seau to notice that, I teach that at Galvanize all the time, of how we make sure what intention we're putting in, what we don't think we're good at when it comes to, especially with women and their voices, although these scrums are genderless, but especially with women really going, how do we fight for that and feel really good and confident? And Junior could have badmouthed me and like taken me down, and it would have changed the trajectory of my confidence. But watching him build me up, and every time he would see me that Super Bowl, we'd be like, that's the rock star. But if he only knew how much that was coming from a place of just lack of confidence, like he would have known how much it meant to me.
Laura Okmin with me on the Roman Gabriel Show, RomanGabrielShow.com, and that reminds me of a story. You remember when Kurt Warner was the MVP of the Super Bowl in the regular season, and about 2 years later they went back to the Super Bowl, the loss against the Patriots. But he had just signed a huge extension. And you remember Rick Riley.
Very much.
Rick was the guy of what you were talking about. Rick was the guy that everybody, when he talked, they knew Rick, because SI was so powerful back then.
Yeah.
And he was the guy that you'd want to write your story or your book.
Sure.
So I'll never forget this. So everybody's talking to Kurt, and so Rick gets Kurt aside. He says, and this is in front of everybody. So Kurt, you just signed a huge extension. So what's changed in your life? And he says, well, besides going out with my family, can't really do that as much as I used to be able to do it. We stay at home more.
Yeah.
But besides that, it's great. And he put the number out there of what he said. Well, what about the money? And he said, well, that's not really a big deal. He goes, first thing I do is give 10% to my church. And I thought to myself, everybody's like looking up in the air thinking, putting the calculation on that 10% for the money. And so Rick's like, you give half $500,000 to your church? And he said, yeah, it belongs to God. And I thought that those are the kind of conversations that like for you, women had tough times with conversations because of not many around and people learning to respect their knowledge and ability. For me, when I chose to go away from talking about the game all the time to telling guys stories,
Yeah.
they didn't want to hear that. I mean, you remember the lights used to go off when you used to, like when you would ask a question, a faith-based question of somebody, they would look at you like you were nuts and go, this is the Super Bowl, what are you doing? I mean, they would ostracize you. But I got to the point where the guys were given such great answers and such great stories, and then finally the columnists had hit them. They said, well, wait a minute, I'm talking about the game all week, and this guy had a life-changing story.
Yeah.
Maybe my readers might want to read about that. So you remember Reggie in 97 comes in, and Reggie says, okay, Monday press conference. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to give a message, and when I'm done, I'm going to answer your questions. And of course, Reggie's preaching from Ecclesiastes on Monday, but he's setting the tone saying this is okay for it to be talked about. And then Kurt took it to a whole new level because Kurt was so different from, Reggie was so divisive, not Reggie himself, but people either liked him or didn't like him. Everybody loved Kurt.
Yeah.
So Kurt was able to bring that messaging mainstream to people where he made it almost like just talking about family or whatever. It was easy.
It's interesting with him. So I'm calling the game with him on Sunday. This will be my 6th Super Bowl with him with Westwood One. And I've covered that game too, and remember that shift with him and faith. But it's really interesting talking to Kurt now about how he used his platform and how he could have done it better, and how maybe he could have brought more in. So I would love to hear you guys have that conversation of that young quarterback of being thrown in and navigating how he used his voice and how he would use it differently now. Would he use it differently now? Because I always love when Kurt talks. He's so reflective and he's so introspective. So I always love to hear how Kurt talks about that time of life that changed everything for him and everybody.
Well, you probably might know this, but I can answer that question you just said.
No, I could too.
Yeah. He when he was with the Cardinals, he started thinking more of, people were ostracizing him, really coming down on him for his truthfulness and for his upfrontness about his relationship with God.
Right.
We thought it was absolutely incredible because he was empowering us.
Yeah.
Because the problem was people weren't respecting that they should be able to talk about what they want to talk about. If that's their passion, if it's family, a foundation, or whatever their passion is, they're using their platform to the Super Bowl to reach the world. And of course, this, all these guys became understanding of that, right? That this is my opportunity to be heard on the things that I care about. So I give Kurt so much credit because he had courage. It takes a lot of courage to do what he did.
Yeah.
And Tony was the same way. Except Tony's so likable.
Tony hasn't changed.
Tony's so likable. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He kind of brought the mainstream people in who Tony could talk about God in a way that people that don't even like God would go, okay, I get it. It's Tony.
Yeah, Tony is very inclusive that way.
Exactly. So it's been really, and I know you've seen this with all the different personalities that have come through, but as long as we've been doing this, Laura, do you see there are certain fulcrum points that we look back and recognize now that were big deals that we didn't think about?
Meaning in terms of
change in the way people perceive, in the way that our jobs were perceived.
Yeah, I created a show about 15, 20 years ago, and it's similar, to your world in terms of I went to Fox and I said, I want to do a 30-minute show where football's never talked about, and it's just profiling people off the field, who they are, and that was a big deal back then. There wasn't anything like that. And so to be able to get Brian Urlacher to sit down and do 30 minutes and not talk about football, or Larry Fitzgerald or Kurt or Adrian Peterson, and I just remember back then loving it so much because they were so not used to it, and they were so they lit up about, I've never gotten to talk about who I am. And so I always have felt that if you're going to invest in someone's jersey or their philanthropy or whatever they're selling, who are you? And like, let's share who you are. And so I think you and I both can remember that time when we started seeing people being interested in and focusing that way, but also players being okay with that.
And them learning
Who they
how to do it
are.
on their end, because what you just said is so true. When we first started doing this type of genre, they would look at me and go, "You're going to talk about what I want to talk about? I mean, we're not going to talk about the game." I said, I'm sure you've talked about the game. So after Tuesday, you're kind of sick of talking about the game, aren't you? And they said, "Yeah." I mean, one of the greatest examples of that is Ray Lewis, right?
Yeah.
Ray's very intimidating, as you know. And when I had never talked to him before, and my cameraman's like, "Ray's it's Pro Bowl. He's at his locker. Go talk to Ray Lewis." I said, "Man, as aggressive as I was like, he was one of the few people I was intimidated." So we were doing a faith family football church event, interviewing players to talk to dads about being a good father and about being present with your family and your kids. So I went up to him, and somebody was asking him a dumb question, and you know how that face he gives, like a lot of guys do, where it looks at him like you're nuts. Well, I was after him, so I'm like, "Oh God, I hope I don't get killed here." So I said, "Ray, we're doing an event at a church Sunday, and would you be willing to talk to dads about parenting?" And it's like this huge smile came over his
Who
face.
cares about that?
And he went off for like 10 minutes. I never asked another question. It was one question for 10 minutes, and he just was like, "This is great." And then the guy asked a dumb question after me. He went back to his regular personality. But that you said it. It was everybody being trained how to make this a more effective communication place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's our heart of Galvanize. So my mantra has always been who, not do. So who you are is not what you do, and so I'm invested in who you are, not what you do. And so Galvanize has been, is now over 5,000 women in sports, and I don't mean just media. I mean we're in PR and we're in marketing and we're agents and we're coaches.
On the administrative side too.
Oh, everything. Any woman in sports, and it could be as young as 18, and we have women in their 50s coming back for the dream. So we're all over the place, and they're all trained in that. And we get together and we pair up with rookie classes, other sports too, but predominantly NFL rookies. And we are there during their rookie camp when they are so stressed and they are freaking out, and everybody thinks they're living their best life and they finally made it and their dreams come true and woo. And then we're in a room where they're scared to death and they're freaked out, and suddenly the dream is there and it's not probably what you imagined, and how do I live up to it, or how do I fight for it? And so I bring an outstanding group of women, and we're there to talk to them about who they are before a logo defines them. And it's very private and it's very intimate. And when I tell you, it gets really competitive in that room with men being vulnerable and men sharing about who they are and what led them to this moment. And we do not talk football. And so I always tell all the thousands of women who've gone through it, and now thousands of men who've gone through it, this isn't for media, although it will make you more confident on camera. It will make you more confident when people say, "Who are you?"
Yeah, but being comfortable with yourself is so much of your success in
Right.
front of the camera too.
It's everything. It's everything. I mean, I didn't gain confidence until I was 40. And so after I was 40, I became such a better interviewer, a conversationalist. My relationships became friendships. How I connected with people, the confidence part changed everything. And so to be able to bring these men and women together, especially the younger women with these younger men, they've never had women in the locker room before. They've never really worked around all these women. So they get to have their first example of these rock star women who have traveled around the country and the world to come help these men get better. And so now when they see a woman in the locker room, instead of checking her out, instead of what's she wearing, what they'll think is, maybe that's a galvanizer. Maybe that's a woman I can see if I can earn her trust and she can earn mine and she can help tell my story. And so I love it because they're killing it on Media Row, being able to do what you're doing. We don't have conversations about football, but they'll kill it on the airplane on the way home with whoever they sit next to. And
Well, you're learning a skill. You're learning the ability to communicate effectively. And I
connect.
I go into public schools to talk to kids, and of course the telephone and the social networking. You go to a high school football game at halftime, and 4 friends are sitting there that could be talking to each other, and they're doing this with each other.
No,
And one of the things that I've always taught when I go into schools is Yeah, you need to be good at technology, obviously, because that's your world. That's how you learn. That's how you're going to get a job. That's how life is now. But it doesn't replace your ability to have a one-on-one conversation, to be able to communicate effectively with confidence, to look somebody in the eye when you talk to them, to listen intently when they talk to you, to shake their hand with firmly and say, "Hi, I'm Roman Gabriel. What's your name?"
Yeah,
You know, and that's what I think our next generation is missing, and that's something that you guys have the ability to do, because a lot of the young people that you're probably getting in your program are growing up on technology.
and they say after 10 minutes on social media, your confidence in yourself goes down. How you feel about yourself, how you feel about other people, how you feel about the world, and how you feel about your place in the world. 10 minutes. And that's not for kids, that's for everybody.
Adults, yeah.
Anybody, 10 minutes down that rabbit hole. And so I know I've been very intentional the last few years of why do I use social media? When do I use it? What do I need to get out of it? And I try to teach that to especially to my women, which is just putting intention, because I think when it started and I started seeing the generations do that, I was so judgmental, and now I'm just scared to death for them, because it takes them down these rabbit holes, and I worry about them so much about how they bring themselves back
You
up.
bring up a great point, what you just said, because my wife told me this about 2 weeks ago. She said, "I got to get off Facebook." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because I don't feel good about myself.
That's
All I
it.
do is see all these beautiful people going to all these places. You and me are working hard, and you'd think that everybody's lifestyle of the rich and famous, and that can't be real,
Yeah, it's
because
not.
everybody always puts their best up on social networking. I mean, if we had to put up some of the marriage situations that we deal with, it'd be a completely different story. So, for everybody, before I let you go, any woman that wants to get involved with Galvanize, that maybe they're looking for a career in sports, maybe they're looking for a career in administrative marketing, public relations. You remember the way it used to be done when you and I were looking for jobs? You would go on that job deal
Oh,
that had all the
totally.
different places you would put stuff in for teams or colleges
Totally.
or PR. That was hard too.
That was hard. This is a little easier now. But honestly, I have women now who aren't even into sports, but they're like, I want to work on my confidence, and you all look like a bunch of amazing women. And I'm like, let's go. And we have amazing men who are a part of it. I always say that. Everyone's like, if you talk about empowering women, we don't talk about the men. And I'm like, it couldn't be further from the truth. I always make sure, especially women in sports, there has to be amazing men speaking to us, because we can't do it alone. I mean, we can't go anywhere without amazing men who support us. So
Well, the
I'm
iron
all about
sharpens
good
iron
men.
in this business has to be.
Always, both sides.
Isolation is the absolute worst thing in your personal life, and it's terrible
professional.
in this life.
100%. But so if they look up our socials, which is Galvanize Life, Life, and then lauraokmin.com, and there's everything with Galvanize. They would just send an email to info@lauraokmin.com, and they get in our database, and we send them all the cool things that we're about to be doing, which we're doing some.
Laura, congratulations on all your success.
Right
with
back
this.
at you. Thank you.
And I was going to throw one more thing out. Remember, you were talking about wanting to do that show where you got personal with athletes, and you asked them to do that?
Yeah.
We forgot about the Godfather, right? Roy Firestone.
Oh,
Roy's the one that helped. I wanted to be just like Roy Firestone. Now, I didn't want to make people cry like he did, but I wanted the opportunity to sit, like you said, one-on-one, where you talk about things that mean something, where guys pour out their heart about things that they can never
matter.
talk about. Roy was so good at drawing that out of people.
and I would say it's what I try to teach at Galvanize is what I've used in my life as a reporter and as a human, which is I want to make someone think and I want to make someone feel. And I don't do small talk. So it doesn't
real.
matter. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's, a conversation on camera or if it's on an airplane. My airplane, I went through a really tough time when I was 40, and we weren't talking about depression then, and I was very alone and very sad, and I was trying to do all the work to get out of it, and I didn't share anything. I just let everyone share with me, right? We're really good at that. And so one of the things I pushed myself to do was start talking on airplanes, because I was on them all the time and I never talked.
That's a hard place too.
And I would always put my music on, even if I didn't have work. I'd
Right.
pretend I just didn't want to talk. And I said, okay, I'm going to start connecting with people, and but the rule is no work talk. Can't talk your due. It's just who you are. And the first person I did that with wound up introducing me to my husband.
Oh,
And the
I didn't know that.
second person that I did that with is one of my best friends now. And my third person, my husband produces movies, and I connected these two, and my husband produced this man's like a movie that it's a real meaningful thing about teenagers and suicide, and so brought them together. And so all three people were at our wedding, and all three people changed the course and trajectory of my life and gave me my life, introducing me to my magnificent husband. And so that was all from just sitting and talking
Making
on
a
an
commitment to do
airplane.
something that's uncomfortable for you.
Yeah, and
That's
connecting.
That really is true about rewards in life.
Yeah.
A lot of times, unless you aim high and unless you're willing to go for it and you're not afraid to fail, and I think you obviously talk about that. That to me, for young people today, I think that's the biggest, hardest thing that they deal with. Is when we grew up, we didn't have the social networking and the intense pressure. Like if we screwed up, the person we screwed up with, knew it,
Yeah.
or the principal knew about it, but the whole world didn't know about it.
I know.
And I think that's where these kids today are unwilling to step out to try to reach their passionate dreams because they'd rather not fail than
Paralyzed.
try. It's paralyzed, exactly.
Roman, I could do this all day.
I know, it's fun. It's so much fun. We have so much fun. Appreciate you coming in. It's so good to
Appreciate
see you.
it. So good
Laura
seeing you.
Okmin, Galvanize. Please check out all of her social sites. And if you're a man or a woman and you're looking for a job in entertainment and sports, or you're just looking to build your self-image, looking to feel better about yourself, looking to build your confidence, then go see her, okay?